And it was like, yeah, sure, Hawk Tuah girl was like onto something, but she said she spits on it. Well, I fart on it.
Babe, wake up. The Talk Tuah podcast just dropped. Yes! Everyone from the soldiers in Ukraine to the people trapped on the ISS. Tune in. What do you mean you don't want to watch it? Fine. I'll do it myself. So yeah, as we know, Hailey Welch, better known as Hawk Tuah Girl, just dropped a podcast, and many people are left wondering why. I mean, just getting right into it, check out this masterpiece of a trailer that was dropped. And if you don't know what Hawk Tuah is, lucky you, because honestly, it was never that funny.
I'm Hailey Welch. A little while ago, my life took a complete left turn and it changed forever. And along the way, I've realized that everybody's entitled to their own opinion. Well, now it's my time to talk. Check out my podcast every week, Talk Tuah, where I'm sitting down with the coolest guests and having actual conversations with them.
Thrilling stuff, I know. You see, I'm of the opinion that podcasts work best when either A, people want to know more about you as a creative, a musician, an artist, know more about you as a person in a different sort of format, or B, are used as a form of entertainment, like true crime, or comedy, or politics type beat type shit. The Talk Tuah podcast would seem to fall into category A, as it seems the premise of this podcast is to just try to become an influencer and to show the internet, show the world that Hawk Tuah Girl is more than just a viral meme. And since the announcement of the podcast, people have been kind of shitting on the idea, although she is not the first person to get famous off of random virality, but there's a sentiment online that is asking why. Who are you, and why should we care? And I mean, I'm one to talk. I'm a literal nobody, just making YouTube videos. The only thing I can say about myself is that I'm 6'4", 200 pounds, read poetry, and fight for civil rights occasionally. Anyway, I took a look at the first episode of the podcast, and I'm going to enlighten you with some highlights. I don't think the video is going to be too long, because if I'm being completely honest, a lot of this podcast was just filler. Also, you take a look at the people she's bringing on the podcast, and it just seems so contrived. It's like people that no one ever asked for and don't really want to see. Just a very strange and eclectic group of people, but let's get right into it. Let me show you what I thought of the podcast.
So we'll be talking about all the crazy stuff that's happened since I got into this mess, and the stuff that me and Chelsea like to do before all this happened. And I want you guys to get to know me better than Hawk Tuah. No, it's tuh. Like, you really got to put your emphasis in. Yeah, you're not saying tuah, you're saying tuh, you know? Like, you got to really put your back into it. Tuh, you know?
This was unedited. This was part of the podcast. The first thing she basically says is, I want you to know me better than Hawk Tuah. Then she makes a little funny cut and starts talking about Hawk Tuah. Not to mention, your podcast is fucking named Talk Tuah. Listen, I'm sure there's a learning curve when making podcasts, but this was not it. Okay, let's go.
I learned that they put on their best shoes with buckles and their best hat, and they all sat down and shared maize. They had corn, and they had a cornucopia, and it went great. And now
Didn't they have a turkey too?
Yeah.
They had a damn turkey.
Starting off strong, every comedy podcast needs a little bit of Thanksgiving talk. Talking about the fact that at Thanksgiving, they did indeed serve turkey. And I'm not a historian, I'm not trying to academic cheese here, but the first Thanksgiving might have not even had turkey. Just let's stay in our lanes.
What if ChatGPT, like, photoshops photos? It's like we had paintings before where the king was telling them what to paint. I mean, that was probably worse than Photoshop.
Yeah, I'd be right.
Like Mona Lisa.
See, this is what I mean about podcasts falling into A or B. You have to be interesting or entertaining. Within 3 minutes, they're talking about history. And when talking about paintings, Hailey Welch manages to say, ah yes, paintings, the Mona Lisa. I think a huge issue with the podcast, though, is because Hailey clearly isn't used to running a podcast. She is the one being interviewed. Like, the comedian she brought on yaps for 90% of it, and then some random bro whom I've never fucking heard of because I'm not caught up on the Hawk Tuah lore interjects. Like, who the fuck are you?
Here's the thing. Number one, if you're a girl and you get Botox, number one, you're going to attract pedophiles. Okay? We're all trying to stop shaving your vagina hair.
Don't stop shaving your vagina hair. I don't know where the fuck Whitney's going with this. Don't stop.
No, I realized
we're going to grow it out and put beads in it.
I was dating creeps the longest time, and I didn't realize I was baiting them by having a bald pussy and Botox. Of course.
This, ladies and gentlemen, is what we call a self-report. No, Whitney, you are not attracting creeps and pedophiles because you shave. In fact, I would go so far as to say they can't even see that. I mean, I don't want to shit on what people think is funny, but actually, yes, I do. That just wasn't. And then going back to the point that I said earlier where she doesn't know how to run a podcast, she literally says, keep going. Because she doesn't know what to say.
Holy shit, keep going. What's something else that pisses
you know what
off?
it is? There's just something that
I thought I was watching Talk Tuah podcast, not Whitney Cummings podcast, but I will give her props because she managed to drag shaving your pubes for fucking 3.5 minutes. I mean, that stands for something.
Just imagine if Chelsea said Hawk Tuah and not you that night.
Who's Chelsea?
Would Chelsea be sitting in that chair?
I would
Chelsea?
not have dealt with it as good as you did.
We'll say Hawk Tuah.
She don't give a fuck. It's her
Let's
problem.
let's just hear you
she
say
does
it.
not give a single fuck.
One more time?
I can't do it as good as
Do
Hailey.
it.
You do it.
No, you do it.
Hot to.
There you go.
You gotta put like an emphasis on it, like tuh. You know, like tuh. Yeah. Say it. All right, all together.
Hot to.
Say it.
What the fuck? I mean, first of all, Chelsea, you don't say it like Hailey says it. No one says it like Hailey Welch says it. But they managed to drag Hawk Tuah, the meme that they don't want to be known for another fucking minute and a half. It makes no sense. It triggers me. I will say, though, then she goes into a segment about her animal sanctuary project, which makes me kind of humanize her. She seems like, honestly, a sweet girl. She just doesn't really know what she's doing. My question is, was it fucking Jake's Paul idea to, like, put money into this? Because this was not thought out at all. And then there's like a straight 15-minute segment of the guest just talking, not letting Hailey say anything. I mean, check this out.
There's something, I like the shamelessness of them.
blunt.
They're blunt. And you know what else I like, appreciate, and this is the same with Tana, is like, people that grew up in public, you might kind of be one of them, you know, I did too, but not like this, not like, you know, it's more like TV, like talk shows and stuff. Like, I like when someone makes mistakes, and it's like, yeah, I was a kid, I was an idiot, I messed up.
Bro, oh my fucking god, spare me. Yes, enthralling conversation. It goes on for 15 minutes. Like, you are not the star of the show. And then after 25 to 30 minutes of just the guest talking and Hailey Welch just saying, yes, keep going, they start talking about their dating lives, which bored me so much because they were being so intentionally vague and non-relatable that it's just incredibly unrelatable. Until they start talking about clogging toilets.
Have you ever had to shit at a man's house?
Yeah, I just shit. I don't even try to hide it.
Okay.
Real
We
shit.
got it! We got the soundbite!
Yeah.
It's gonna make her as famous as Hailey!
You holy shit!
He
man.
shits too. Why
I
am I
just
We
hiding?
have a sign called Shitting with Chelsea.
I try to hide it! I'm in!
She's hot to spit on that thing. I'm hot
It's
to
a shit on that thing.
Please give her a hat.
That
No.
respect.
Yeah.
Just dab.
That is...
Jamie, what do you do? Oh, I manage Spit Girl and Shit Girl. What do you do?
Jamie!
And it was like, yeah, sure, Hawk Tuah girl was like onto something, but she said she spits on it. Well, I fart on it. And I was like,
What?
Yeah.
I understand now what Scorsese was saying when he says that Marvel was not cinema. It's because Talk Tuah podcast is what he was imagining as cinema. I'm not kidding when I say this. I think Oppenheimer might have swept the Oscars if instead of saying, I am become death, like a fucking nerd loser, he said, I am become Hawk Tuah. Although I will give Hailey the credit that she probably has influencer blood, because for her first ad read ever, just like all influencers, she manages to do it with such lifelessness and no emotion that she's right up there with the big leagues.
Better Picks is offering a deposit match up to $200 and a free pick for all new users. So basically, if you put like $200 in, they match it. That's $400 right there.
Let's do it right now. That's like 200 plus 200 is 400. I mean, that's 400 free dollars. Just do it. And I mean, before and after the shit on that thing, there's like 15 minutes of the guests just talking about completely irrelevant shit, and Hailey again just saying, yes. It's like watching a reaction video where the reactor is giving no actual input other than ad-libbing. Yeah. Yo.
LA is now just kind of this weird, like, Black Mirror simulation now. It's like China's bought every building and it's all just like weird, empty, like, money laundering schemes. Like, it kind of like sounds like you're missing like the Standard Hotel and like House of Blues is closed down. It's kind of a weird vibe.
I mean, listen, maybe that's interesting to some people, but literally that's the entire podcast. It's Whitney Cummings, like, ranting about irrelevant bullshit. Then they talk about Erewhon for a while, like the most expensive grocery store in LA. I'm sure that's relatable to all of you guys. They eventually circle back to how she is, in fact, the Hawk Tuah girl, and Whitney gives her some more great relationship advice. This just happens throughout the podcast. There is a reason I'm showing you very little bits of it. But everybody knows the ending is the most important in any piece of media. So how does she end the podcast?
I got one more question for you.
I hope you say Hawk Tuah.
What is your biggest turn on?
Yo, even better. Fuck yes. Absolute cinema. This is why we came to watch the Talk Tuah podcast. And that's it. I guess that's what a podcast is. As they say, it's just two people talking to one another. My ultimate takeaway after sitting through an hour of this is not everybody needs a podcast. Bye. I love you.